Hello and welcome to the Nebraska Library Commission's Public Library Accreditation workshop for 2025. I am Christa Porter. I am the Library Development Director here at the Nebraska Library Commission. At the Library Commission, I am in charge of our accreditation program, and the certification in my department handles the certification programs that go along with accreditation. And we are going to be looking at both of those things today. This is a 3-hour workshop, but we will take a break halfway through, so we don't all have to sit here straight for 3 hours straight. There will be a break at about halfway through the workshop, so do keep that in mind. Here at the Library Commission, in addition to accreditation, I handle our E-rate program, helping libraries apply for that. We provide grants, continuing education resources to libraries, so a bunch of different things that we do here through library development. I see that we have a bunch of people, a varied group of people attending today's workshop. Some of you are up for accreditation renewal this year. That's great, perfect time to get on top of that before the process opens up in July 1st. Some of you are not up for accreditation for a few years, and that's great too. It's always good to get a head start on the process, to know what to expect when it is time for your library's renewal. We have some libraries who are not accredited yet at the moment, and that's awesome too. We would love to have more libraries go through the process and be accredited, so welcome. Also good, we have some library directors and some board members joining us, and that is good as well. You do want to have more people than just a library director involved in this process and participating and knowing what it's all about. So it's good to have everyone involved in the process. So there are no slides or anything for this workshop. We are just going to be looking at the actual accreditation web pages that we have on our Nebraska Library Commission website, and the application form that you use to apply for accreditation or re-accreditation. When I do send out notifications to you about accreditation, or that you're up for reaccreditation, or inviting libraries to join, or any information, I do include direct links to the accreditation webpage that we have. But I'm going to start here today just on Nebraska Library Commission homepage, just show you how to get to it in case you don't have those direct links. So here from our Library Commission webpage, on the side here, we have a whole bunch of items in a menu that are all the different things that we do here through the Commission. And the second one down is for accreditation and certification. These 3 items are grouped together in one flyout menu because they are related to each other. Library board certification and public librarian certification are requirements for a library to be accredited. So they all relate, so they're all together in one grouping here. We are going to talk about accreditation first, and then when we get to the requirements part, we will dig into the library board and librarian certifications. And there are lots of direct links here to various parts of each of these sections that we will look into later, but we're going to start down here with accreditation. We have a link to the main accreditation webpage that we'll start with, the online application form, some of the guidelines. You can looking up any public library's accreditation level currently, and the community needs response planning has its own page. That's the additional document, community needs response plan that libraries are required to submit as part of their accreditation or re-accreditation. So I'm just going to go to the main about page to start us right off. So first thing to explain about accreditation is that this is not a national program that is created or run or monitored by any national organization like ALA, the American Library Association, or IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services. This is something that is done locally at the state level. here, so it's been through us here at the Nebraska Library Commission. We created the program back in the late 1980s and has been going since then. Other states also sometimes have accreditation programs or certification programs for their boards or library staff, but they're not all the same. Each state does it differently. Each state has their own program and their own processes. So some do both like we do. We have both certification programs and accreditation programs here in Nebraska. Some states only have an accreditation program for the libraries. Some only have certification programs, sometimes just for librarians, just for boards. And some states have nothing. They don't do anything like this. So it does vary from state to state. So if you are here, have come here to Nebraska from another state and worked elsewhere, and you know about their program and how theirs works, ours will probably be different. They are similar sometimes. You may recognize some things. There are some similarities to different states. Some of us have looked at other states and emulated what they are doing there in some parts. So you'll recognize some things, but they all do work a little differently, and they're all handled within each state. In addition to this 3-hour workshop that we're doing today, I did last month do a shorter version of this on our NCompass Live weekly webinar show. So if you have any staff, 1 hour, 66 minutes, a little over an hour. So if you have any staff that just need a general overview of the program, or board members who don't need this full 3-hour in-depth look into the program, or stakeholders that you want to just give a little overview, that would be something that you could send them to. The recording is up, and you can have people watch that one. This workshop itself is also being recorded and will be available for anyone to watch later as well, if you do have other staff that do need to watch the full training that we're doing. So as I said, the program started in the late 80s. The first year libraries were accredited, from what I can tell, was 1988. And it has the process and the program has been updated and modified throughout the years. The most recent changes to the program, I would say, were done in 2022. We brought together a review committee to look at and do a self-evaluation of the program to see if things were going well, if how the program was working is what we wanted it to do, was it helping us, was it helping libraries, et cetera, et cetera. This is a group of library commission staff, regional library system directors, and actual librarians. So your colleagues out there help inform what we do in the accreditation program. The current incarnation of the program was instituted in 2013. So this is the points-based process where you earn points for different things that you do at your library. And these things you will check off when you're looking at your accreditation application form. And I will show you how to do that when we get to that. In 2022, we did some changes because the COVID-19 pandemic had affected everyone, and things need to be looked at. The first major change you will notice here, if you were involved at all in doing accreditation in the past, is how long that a library's accreditation is good for. A library's accreditation is good for 5 years now. Previously, before 2022, it was 3 years. 3 years. Every 3 years, you had to be re-accredited. We had heard over the years that was too soon to do a reaccreditation, that things hadn't changed enough in a community to really need to reset and see what was going on. So we'd always had in our back of our minds that we should do, maybe think about expanding that or something. In 2020, I was preparing to get ready for the upcoming accreditation process. As you see here at the top of the page, it opens on July 1st. That is when the application form goes live. So that is the first date that you can actually log into your library's accreditation application form. And so I was in spring of 2020 working on getting things ready, situated, and as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. I, at that time, decided there's plenty of things going on in the world, library directors, libraries, and myself, we do not need to be worrying about accreditation this year. You don't have to worry about libraries going, you're trying to figure out all sorts of other things, how you're going to deal with providing services while we are closed down during lockdown or whatever. So I gave every library an extension on their public library accreditation for a year. So not just the ones that were due up for reaccreditation that year, but everyone I just bumped a year, gave everyone a year. 2021 came around, we were still dealing with the pandemic, still in the height of the pandemic, and things were still not good at all. So I gave another year. I said, you know what, let's just skip another year, not a problem. Everyone got another year extension. In 2022, I decided, okay, things have settled in, we're good, let's go. So we decided to open up accreditation again, restart the process after that 2-year hiatus. And some libraries had just fallen into that 5 years. So we decided, when I brought together this review committee, let's just make it permanent. Let's make that an official change. There's a lot of yays and cheers for that. So now it is a 5-year accreditation process. Some libraries ended up with more than 5 years in the end, however. When it was every 3 years, all the libraries up for reaccreditation were grouped into 3 groups about the same size. So I always had the same number of libraries to work with every year. When it went to 5 years, I had to take all the libraries and divide them up into 5 groups, so that I would also still have the same number of libraries to work with each year. In order to do that, some libraries were given a couple of extra years just to move them into these new groups. So some of you have gone more than 5 years without going through the accreditation process, 6, 7 years possibly. But we are working on getting everyone back and into a good cycle of this. During that 2022 self-evaluation, we did make some other minor changes to the process as well, some clarifications and updates to some of the guidelines, some wording changes, and some changes to the community needs response plan. Excuse me. And we added in some computer security questions into the application. We'd never asked about those before, and it was mentioned by multiple people that we should do that. So this has been an evolving program. It's not a program that's been locked in place since the 1980s. We change with the times as needed. So, and this is where we are today. So that just gives you a little background and history of how we have come up to the current version. So one of the first things I do get asked about accreditation is, what's the reason for this? What's the purpose? Why am I doing this? So the purpose for library accreditation is to create some standards for library service in Nebraska, to have libraries reach these guidelines, achieve these guidelines, and show that they are keeping up with standards that have been created and developed by their own colleagues, other librarians in the state. Shows that you are keeping up with the trends, keeping up with the times, keeping up with your own education and professional development. It's something your library, your community can be proud of and celebrate. Something fun to say. We have been officially designated and by the state library agency, that's us, the Library Commission, as an accredited library at a particular level. So these minimum standards are things that you can strive for. It also is something you can use to show to your stakeholders, people who are in charge of giving you your money or supporting you, that you are doing these things and you have been, and it's not just you saying, hey, we're doing these things and they're important, but some official entity, like the Library Commission, looking at what you're doing and saying, yes, we approve of it, and we say, yes, these are good things. This library is reaching these benchmarks and we support that, and it's a good thing. In addition, there are some physical things you can get. There is a certificate, an actual certificate that is mailed out to libraries stating that you are accredited up to a certain year. And some libraries take that in frame, put it in a frame, put it on the wall. That's great. There is an online seal, a actual graphic that will be emailed to you that you can use on your library website or on any of your paper that you put out, your newsletters, flyers, whatever you want, any way you want to promote or announce that you are accredited, you'll be able to use that. And our system directors, our library system directors, have in the past had window clings that you can put out in your window at your library as well. So that is the main reason for why we have this program and why it was created. There are some other benefits to being accredited as well that are money related, and that is something, you know, without libraries, all of us struggling with budgets, you want to have more additional funding, and you can receive some additional funding only if your library is accredited. The first thing here is our state aid program, state aid to public libraries. This is a program we have here through the Library Commission where we receive funding from the state legislature as part of our budget that we can divide up amongst libraries to give them some additional funding to use in addition to your regular budget. It is not something to supplement or replace your budget. It is an additional money on top of what you have already in your budget. In order to receive state aid, you do need to be accredited. And then if you're accredited at one of our higher levels, silver or gold, you receive additional funding on top of your base amount. An extra $200 if you're silver level, and an extra $400 if you are a gold level. So here I'm going to show you the state aid website here. The state aid formula is based on your library's population served. And in order to receive state aid, it must be accredited, and you have to complete our public library survey. The public library survey and the state aid program are both handled by Sam Shaw here at the Nebraska Library Commission. You probably all have worked with him. He reaches out to you in November saying, hey, public library survey is open, and then he's nagging you in February to make sure you finish it up. This is the formula and the recipients and the amounts for this year. So this funding just went out this spring. There is a base amount that is calculated each year based on how much money we get from the state legislature, and then you receive a per capita on top of that, depending on your population served. There is also an additional incentive if you have funding from a local entity, and then if you are a silver or gold accredited, you get that additional $200 or $400. So you can look here and see where your library is, how much they received this year, and how much your per capita calculated out to, and then how much your total aid payment was. I believe we also have, yes, and we do have the previous years here as well. So if you wanted to see how things have changed over time, you can look at that as well and see what the state aid amounts were on previous years. So in order to receive this state aid, you do need to be accredited. Also here from the Nebraska Library Commission, we offer grants. We have 4 grant programs that require you to be accredited in order to apply. These are our continuing education and training grants, internship grants, library improvement grants, and our youth grants for excellence. Now, I will mention here, I will note there is another grant that is on this website. There's actually 5 grants that we are the administrator of, but the Fern Behind Library Trustee Scholarship, that is not our grant that we receive state funding for. That is from a community foundation, but we just handle the processing of that. This is a scholarship grant that is open right now, as you can see, for your library board members to attend either the Nebraska Library Association Conference or the Association for Rural and Small Libraries Annual Conference. It's available every year, each year. First year was last year. So it's open now. So if you want to send some of your library board members to 1 or 2 great conferences, apply for that scholarship. But the other 4 grants on here are the ones that you do need to be accredited for. So our continuing education and training grants for attending conferences or things outside of Nebraska, or bringing in someone to do a professional development day at your library. Internship grants, we can provide you with funding to pay an intern to come and work at your library temporarily. Library improvement grants. These used to be, until this year, actually, well, previously they were most recently funded by federal funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, but this year we changed them to using our state funds instead. As I'm sure everyone is aware, there is uncertainty about what's happening with IMLS, and we had been waiting and waiting, and we weren't sure what was going to happen, so we just decided let's just switch it and we'll use our own state funds so that we can still award these grants and give out this funding. So the library improvement grants are now state funded as well. And our youth grants for excellence for anything that you have that is for children or teen services or programs. Now, all of these grants, these 4 grants, open in the fall. As you can see, they all have the same available due dates. So they are already have been awarded for this year, for 2025. But for next year, they will open up again in the fall. Specific dates to be determined. And so you will be able to apply for 2026 for anything you're doing in 2026. And as I said, you do need to be an accredited public library in order to apply for those grants. And the last monetary related item here is from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. They have community development block grants, and they have decided that one of their criteria is that a library applying for those grants does need to be accredited through us. So they will check for that accreditation. These grants are great. These are for, as it says here, community facilities, and that means construction. So if you are building a new library or expanding your library or doing any sort of renovation, any sort of that kind of construction work, that is a grant that you can apply for through the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. So all of those items, for all of this funding, you do need to be accredited to receive any of that funding. Right, so I did mention those silver and gold levels. There are 3 levels of accreditation in our accreditation program, bronze, silver, and gold. And the program works, as I mentioned, on a points system. Previously, the accreditation program was you had to meet all these different guidelines to be the lowest level, and then reach all these different guidelines to be the next level, etc. We decided to switch, well, I didn't, before my time in being involved. Back in 2013, they came up with this point system instead. Something that was a little more equitable, reflect more accurately what is happening in each of your unique communities. Every community doesn't necessarily need the same services or the same hours opened or the same days opened. And rather than saying everyone has to do this one thing, we came up with a point system where you may be doing one thing and a different library is doing something else, but you both earn points for those 2 different things, and that's okay. Your accreditation will reflect what's happening in your community and what your community says that they need. Now, there are some minimum requirements, minimum guidelines that everyone has to meet. There are 12 of those, but there are 50-something other items that you can earn points for on your accreditation application form. There are a total of 275 points available, but the highest number you can earn is 250 for that gold level. So 250 for gold, 200 for silver, and 175 points for bronze. You can look up and see where your library or any library is accredited at. And this is our Public Library Accreditation status page. This shows you all, now this is a list of every public library in the state that we know of that exists. So you will see the ones that are accredited and the ones that aren't on here. The ones that aren't are just blank. This is a voluntary program. Libraries are not required to be accredited to be a public library in Nebraska. It's voluntary, so some libraries just don't do it. They don't feel that it's something they need. They're too small sometimes staff-wise to go through this whole process and figure it all out, and that is perfectly fine. We're happy to have any types of libraries in the state, but this is a list of all the libraries, just in case we do get some new ones. We can add in their information here. So this is by default sorted by city, but you can resort it by library name, regional library system, the year of expiration, or an accreditation level if you want to. These links for the libraries, if we know of the library has a website, it links to that library's homepage, their library's website. And so you can see here lots of libraries of silver, gold, bronze, and all the different years that they are expiring at. Your accreditation is good through the end of whatever year it says on that page, so through December 31st of the expiration year. So all of the libraries that are expiring this year in 2025 Their accreditation is still good through the end of December. We go through the accreditation process before your current one expires so that there's no break. Your new accreditation would begin officially on January 1st of the next year, in this case, January 1st of 2026. And the 5-year period your next 5-year period will run from 2026 through 2030. So your next accreditation would expire in 2030. Here is the schedule for when things happen each year when we do accreditation. The process officially opens on July 1st when the accreditation application form goes live for libraries to log into. So right now, as I said at the top of this page, the form, you cannot go in and log in and submit the form yet. I have a behind the scenes way because I'm in-house here where I will show you a demo of a live form, but you can't get into your form yet. On July 1st, I will email all libraries who are up for reaccreditation and all non-accredited libraries who have submitted our public library survey and our Library Commission supplemental survey. As I mentioned, these are the public library survey and the supplemental survey are run by Sam Shaw. That is the first step in being accredited or maintaining your accreditation, is making sure that you submit that annual survey. He sends me a list of everyone who's done it, all the libraries who have submitted it, so I know that the reaccredited ones have done it, and any new ones that are to be invited to apply for the first time. There are 2 items that you have to submit to me to be accredited. That is the online accreditation application form and your community needs response plan. This is a separate document that you will either compose, write up, or update from a previous one. And it talks about what's happening in your community, what the needs are that you've discovered, and how you might respond to some of them, some programs or goals that you'll have. And in the second half of today's workshop, we will go into the community needs response plan and dig and show all how you can do that. Both of these items are due to me by October 1st. So on July 1st, I open up the program, I send you an email, and you have to have both of these to me by October 1st. You can send me your plan, your community needs response plan early if you want to. You can send me a draft version of it if you want me to review it and look over and give you some feedback. We will definitely have a back and forth about if I think you need to develop one area more or you're missing something or whatever. So you can send that to me ahead of time. I actually already have a couple from some libraries. And also that October 1st deadline is not locked in stone. If you are having trouble or issues with getting things in on time, I can give extensions. I've given months extensions to some people who are just really busy at that time, or just couldn't get to it, to like October 1st. So extending from October 1st to November 1st, December 1st, whatever. After I receive both of those items anyways, the application form and the plan, I look at them together and review them together. And I may have questions for you. I'll reach out to you. So there will be a back and forth even after that October 1st date. By the end of December, everything will be taken care of, will be reviewed, and you will know by the end of this December 31st at the latest, if you've been reaccredited or accredited and at what level. That's when my personal deadline to have everything evaluated and done. So there can be extensions. We will have a back and forth even after you submit both of those to me. There are some things on your accreditation application form that you will check off that should be mentioned in your plan, and things in your plan you got to make sure you check off on your application form. So I look at those 2 things together to make sure you've done that. I don't want you to mention something in your plan and forget to check it off on your application form and lose out on those points. I want to make sure you can earn all the points that you are eligible for. Now, as far as also extensions, if I know that there's a new library director, if you are a new director this year, the year that you're due for reaccreditation, I will proactively reach out to new directors and say, hey, since this is your very first year being a director at this library, I'm going to give you an actual year extension on your accreditation. You got plenty of things to learn as a new library director, and this is one less thing that I want to need to put on your plate. So I will reach out to any library directors I know that are new, and I'll offer them a year extension. It's up to you if you want to take it. If you think you can go ahead and handle and do accreditation, that's okay. But I will offer, hey, if you want to just skip one thing this first year, we'll pick you up next year, and I'll give a year extension for new directors. Also, if there's been any other serious extenuating circumstances that might require you getting a longer extension than just a few months, getting that year extension, natural disasters, most likely, we have tornadoes here in Nebraska, of course. Back in 2019, we had that major flooding. We gave many libraries extensions because they were just dealing with the fact that their community just got flooded. If you're doing a major library renovation or building a new library building, you've got a lot to deal with that. Let me know. I will give you that. This year might not be the year to worry about accreditation because we're working on building our new building or renovating our current one, and I will give you an extension. Just reach out to me and let me know what your situation is. I hope I am very flexible and understanding for all those kind of situations. All right, so as I said, in order to apply and to maintain a library's accreditation, you have to have done that library survey, community's response plan, and there are 12 minimum qualifications that you have to meet. And I want to address this to maintain your library's accreditation here. Accreditation is not something that you can just do, like if you're due for renewal this year, and then wait and keep up with everything in 5 years. Like, don't do your public library survey in 5 years. You have to maintain your library's accreditation by submitting that public library survey every year and continuing to meet the 12 minimum qualifications that I'm going to show you in just a minute. I have sometimes slacked off on keeping up on this maintaining part. Most recently, because of the COVID pandemic, I didn't really, knuckle down on libraries about did they keep up with their qualifications or not. But we are beyond that seriousness of that now. Libraries have settled into how they're dealing with that and having the libraries be open normally now. So we are going to be enforcing the maintaining your library's accreditation. If you miss submitting your survey, Sam's really good, I think, at not contacting libraries, reminding you to do it, helping you submit that survey, giving extensions as much as he can. The public library survey is a national survey, so he does have a deadline that he has to meet to get that in. That's why it usually closes in February. So there will be an ultimate deadline when if you just don't get it in, you don't. And if you were an accredited library and did not get your survey in, you will lose your library's accreditation that year. So do keep up on that. As I said, the application form right now isn't live, but there is a preview application we have a link to here. This is not an interactive form that you can actually click on things or change things, but you can look at it to see the kinds of questions that you will be asked when you do your accreditation. So this is just some general info, and I'm going to get more into the details of this when I look at the live demo I'm going to do for you. But you can see here all the different questions that are asked. You'll see if I try and click on these boxes, I'm clicking my mouse, you can't see, but I am. You can't actually make any changes here or anything. This just shows you the kinds of questions you'll be asked, what you can earn points for, how many points you can earn. So you can kind of do some math to see what do we need to do to reach bronze, silver, or gold level. There is help within the application form. There's always these yellow circles, the question mark in it. Those help things are live in the preview form. So you can look at all, and for some of the guidelines, we put in more information links that will help you understand or answer those questions. So you can now look at this preview application if you want to check and see what kind of questions you will be asked. All right, so we're going to go into the requirements here. Like I said, the public library survey, that's the first one. If you've done that, you've received your state aid funding, you know that you have got that requirement done. Some of you may have heard of the also Dollars for Data program that we have for completing the public library survey. That is also fund money that we can give to libraries for ones that are not accredited. So anybody who completes the public library survey can get some sort of funding from us. The Dollars for Data money is less than state aid money, but it's a little something, an incentive to at least provide us with those statistics. This is data that we need here at the Library Commission to help support services we do, and it's submitted nationally, so people have national statistics about what's going on in the library world. So there is that Dollars for Data program that you can get some amount of money for, but if you're accredited, you get that larger state aid amount. So I'm going to go into the 12 minimum qualifications here first. Does anybody have any questions right now before I jump into that? Because that's starting to get into the application form itself. Does anybody have any questions about what I've mentioned so far, the process, the timing, the basics? Is there anything you want me to cover that I haven't mentioned yet that you're wondering if I'm going to cover? Let me know. Type into that questions section of your GoToWebinar interface. I'll give you a minute or so to type in there. All right, let's go on to our minimum qualifications. So when the accreditation application form is live and you click on these links to actually go into the application, you will actually come on to this page, which is where you can also see at any time what are the 12 minimum requirements to be accredited. So these are the only 12 things that every library has to do, has to meet all of these 12. Everything else within the application form is optional, and you check off which ones you meet or not. Many of these are based on our Nebraska state laws, Nebraska library laws. We have our help link in here. Once you get into these 12 minimum qualifications, pops open a help page that has links to the Nebraska revised statutes, federal laws, other links that are useful for dealing with these 12 minimum qualifications. All right, and you can see here, there's a big red box at the top that says the process will begin July 1st. So if you try to start it up, it's just not going to work yet, not until July 1st. All right, so let's go through these. First thing to do, you need to be is legally established under Nebraska state statutes. Most Nebraska library laws are in Chapter 51 of our state statutes. Many of them are some of them are in Chapter 16, depending on if you're a larger library, and then there are other Open Meetings Act and Chapter 84, confidentiality of library records, et cetera, et cetera. But we've got links to help you get to all of those in our help. Being legally established requires two things. The first thing is that at some point in time, your community, your municipality, your city council, township board, whatever, has put out an ordinance or official notification that you are going to be creating a public library for your community. So an official declaration by the city, by your city or village. And second thing is that you have to have a library board with a minimum of 5 members. This is in Nebraska state law. So this is to be considered a legally established library in Nebraska. Now, you do not have to be legally established in order to be a public library in Nebraska, which is an interesting thing. Anyone can start up a public library and say they have one for their community. It can be locally run, it can be run by volunteers, and that's great. We are happy to have libraries of all types out there serving their communities, however is needed or able to do that. But to be legally established, you have to have had that ordinance by your community and that have a library board with a minimum of 5 members on it. And that is also the first requirement to become accredited. Second minimum qualification is that you comply with all Nebraska library laws. Library law is about running your library board, about running your library, and any other local laws that might be in place from your community or federal laws that affect library operations. That would be things like Americans with Disabilities Act. As a public entity, you are required to be in compliance with that as well. So you certify here that you are in compliance with all those laws. You also have to have that library board work can be either governing / administrative or advisory. We have two types of library boards in Nebraska. Most of our library boards are governing, and you have to have written bylaws, and you must follow Nebraska's open meetings law. On the help page here, we do have a link to the section in the Nebraska state law about open meetings. Because your library board is a public body, you are required to be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. For those of you wanting to know more information about that, a lot more details, we're actually doing a NCompass Live on that in 2 weeks. Our NCompass Live is on the Open Meetings Act law. So the state legislature likes to make changes to it, or well, changes sometimes happen to the open meetings law due to things that have bills that have gone through. And we've done updates to this over the last couple of years every year. Myself and Scott Childers, who is the executive director of our Southeast Library System, who's on the line with us right now. Hi, Scott. I know he's here today. We will both be presenting on, he is our expert on library laws and Open Meetings Act. So he'll be presenting for us on June 25th in NCompass Live. So if you want to know a lot more about Open Meetings Act and law and how your board needs to be in compliance with that, register for that NCompass Live. Scott also did do for us a NCompass Live about Nebraska laws, Nebraska Chapter 51 and beyond. So look into in our show archives, and you'll find a link to a recording of a previous session about Nebraska library laws in general. So your board has to have bylaws and follow Open Meetings Act law. Our next two requirements, minimum qualifications, are that your board and your library director are both certified. Okay, and I am going to pop back over to our accreditation page to explain more about both of these items, which I'm going to reopen that from here. Okay. So as I showed you before, our board and our librarian certification programs are here. In order to be accredited, both your library board has to be certified and your library director has to be certified. Additional library staff can be certified as well, and you can earn extra points for any additional staff that have their certifications. The board and librarian certification programs are similar, but they do have some specifics to each of them. For both, and I'm going to look at both of their pages in more detail. For both of them, you do have to apply to let us know that your board is working towards certifications, that we know when your board members submit any hours to us or any things that they attend for CE hours, it's for that purpose. Also, as an individual library staff person director, you have to submit a form to us letting us know you want yours anytime you attend something, that it goes towards your librarian certification. Now, if you're attending something that we run here through the Library Commission, like today's workshop, we submit that for you. I have a record of who's attended today's workshop, and I will pass that on to our CE people here, Holly and Mary, who will automatically submit your hours for today. So you don't have to submit for things that we're hosting here, but if you go attend something else, or if you attend a recording of something we've done, then you would have to submit it yourself. There is a library board manual that is linked here, which is an online document we put together that's basically everything you need to know about being a library board member. And we have a companion director's guidebook, same kind of thing, but for a library director. Everything we think that you would need to do to know how to do your job as a library director. So those are just resources for you. You can look up your library board's status to see if they are certified and at what level, if they have any hours they need. You can look up your own CE record for you as an individual. This is not something, the board one is public. This one is something you look up yourself. Just it's not out there for everyone to see. There's a password to get into that. And then they each have their own form to submit your CE records, CE for, one for the board and then one for librarians. So they're two separate forms depending on if you're submitting as a library staff person or if you're submitting as a board member. So we'll go into the board certification first. Both of these certifications, the purpose is to keep up with your continuing education. Lifelong learning is important, as we know, and just to show that you are keeping ongoing learning about what your job is as a either board member or a library staff member. For library boards, you have to earn, the library board has to earn 20 hours of CE in a 3-year certification period. The board certification and the librarian certification are both good for 3 years as opposed to accreditation, which is now 5. So every 3 years. For library boards, this is 20 hours as a whole, not 20 hours per person on your board. So if you have your 5 minimum members, that is 4 hours per person in a 3-year period. Should be easy to get that done. You can sit all together and watch a 1-hour workshop of something, like you could sit your board down to watch that 1-hour accreditation Encompass live show that I did, and boom, you've earned 5 hours. So it's each person earns the hours, but then they are gathered up together for your board. As I said, you can look up the status of your board here. And you can see this is similar to the accreditation list, but this is just for the library board certification status. So you can see if a board is certified, when their expiration is, which system they're in. Some boards have expired. Those are the ones in red. Sometimes some boards decide we're just not worried about it anymore. We're not even accredited, so we don't have a reason, that reason to do it, or it's just fallen by the wayside, whatever. In this case, these links to the library names bring up the board certification record, so you get the details. So here, this is Ainsworth, they're just at the top of the list. And you see their certification is good right now through September 2027. They've earned 11 hours and they need 9 more. Should be okay, they should meet them. And it will list here what they've submitted to us, when it was, how many hours it was worth, and the initials of whichever board member attended that session. We also show here who we have listed as your current board members. This is something you can submit to us using that library NLC supplemental survey that goes along with the public library survey. So if you look at this for your library and you're like, oh, that's not right, you can let us know and we can update that. You will notice here too that sometimes who attended something, the initials does not match up with current board members, and that's okay. At the time, someone with the initials EV attended our Big Talk from Small Libraries conference. They are not on the board anymore. That's okay, but they were on the board during the certification period, so they earned those credits for the board. So you can always check and make sure you are on top of your board's CE and making sure they're keeping their certification. This is the form to submit board CE hours. You can submit one activity and list multiple names. So you don't have to submit, like if you've got 5 board members attend something, you don't have to do 5 different things. You just say there's this one thing that happened, they all did it on this day, and here's all the 5 people that attended it. And then this is the form to apply for that certification in the first place, to say, yes, our board members are working towards that. Now, what can you earn CE for? All sorts of things. It does depend on how long the event lasts. You need to do at least 45 minutes of something to earn 1 hour of CE, and a minimum of 20 minutes of something to earn a half, 0.5. You can attend workshops, webinars, conferences, training sessions, almost anything. Live in person. Here also in Nebraska, we pay for statewide membership in United for Libraries. That is the American Library Association's division for friends, foundations, boards, and trustees. And we have trustee academy courses, short takes for trustees. All of their training and resources are available for free to all Nebraska library staff, board members, friends, and foundation members. So you just set up your own account in here and you can attend anything that they have and earn continuing education for. So here for boards, there's basic trustee competencies, working effectively with your director, advocacy, equity, diversity, inclusion, et cetera, et cetera. These are longer sessions. The short takes are shorter videos, so you would have to watch a couple of these to earn that minimum, to get those minimum 20 minutes. But short, so you could possibly at a board meeting at the end, watch a couple of these, or watch one week, another one the next week, one month, another one the next month. They total up to 20, you've got enough to submit. I've also linked to a couple of other states that have some really good resources out there. Pennsylvania and Wyoming have their own videos. As you can see here, they're also short ones, each of these worth a half CE. We've done all sorts of webinars on Encompass Live that are related to being a trustee and library board member that they could watch. So these are links to all those recordings. This session here, United for Libraries, I'm going to tell you right now, you're getting first notice of this, and it'll come up on our Encompass Live calendar, hopefully later today. Next week's Encompass Live is going to be an update from Beth Nowolinsky, the Executive Director of United for Libraries. I'm in conversations with her right now about coming on the show next week. We had an unfortunate cancellation. The presenter for next week, who we had scheduled for Encompass Live, is not able to present, but Beth is going to come on. So keep your eyes open for that announcement, and then sign up to learn more about United for Libraries next week. In addition, and this here links to the sign up and register for the Nebraska Open Meetings Act session I mentioned, and here is the recording for the Nebraska Public Library Laws session. Also, from United for Libraries, if you'll notice at the very top of our website right now, the United for Libraries virtual conference is coming up at the end of July, and we have paid for free registration for all Nebraska library staff, board members, friends, and foundation members. So you can sign up and join that. It's a 3-day event online, and everyone can earn CE for attending that. So that is our board certification. Any questions about board certification? All right, let's pop over to librarian certification. So this is for individual staff members at the library, and your library director is required to be certified. Additional staff, it's optional, but they can earn points towards your library's accreditation. It's a very similar program, similar purpose, keeping up your education, keeping up your learning about your job. For our library board members, you need to attend things that are related to being a board member, things that help out at that particular job you have as being a board member. So attending things like how to run a story time. If you're not the librarian running a story time, a board member wouldn't earn CE for that, but a librarian would. Or a library staff member would. There is the application to submit, of course, just like the board one. There are different levels of certification that I'm going to go into, but I wanted to go on here first and talk about for library staff, you do need to earn more hours of CE. This is your job, so of course we want you to do more education. You need to earn 45 hours of CE over also a 3-year period. So of course more than just a board member, but this is, if you divide it up between those 3 years, it's only 15 hours a year. So and there's lots of things that you can earn CE for, like today's workshop, you're all learning 3 hours. So you got 3 of them done already. There are different levels of certification depending on your education level. As you can see here, some of it is everyone high school diploma minimum, but then if you've completed any hours of education at a university, at a college or university, you'd be level 2. If you've done something that is actually in library science, you get level 2L, and et cetera, 3, 4, and then level 5 is if you actually have your master's degree in library science, MLS, MLIS, Master's Institute, whatever, information sciences, whatever they're calling it now, at a ALA accredited program, you get level 5. If you have degrees that are not in library science related, then you have to do our basic skills courses. We want, it's good to have a degree in something, but we want you to have, you should also have some sort of training in your field. We know that library school is not going to work for everyone. Not everyone has the time, the money, the resources to go to college to get another degree or a degree. So we provide free online courses to teach you the basic skills of being a librarian. The Basic Skills Program, there are 6 main courses that you have to take. These, you have the whole 3 years to take them. Also, they're online 2 weeks out of the year, each one of these classes, except for Introduction for Cataloging. It's more in-depth. That's a month-long session. So you've got Community in the Library, Customer Service, Intellectual Freedom, et cetera, and then you take 7 electives out of this group. Leadership, Library Finance, basically electives on the things that you need to know or want to know more about for your job. All of these courses are free. They are open to any Nebraska residents or who are employed by a library or thinking of being employed by a library. There's no real restrictions on who can attend these. They're all online, they're all free. They're required if you want to be a certified and don't have a library degree, but anyone can take them. So even if you are a library staff somewhere and you even have your degree, but you need a refresher on library finance, you've suddenly become a director and don't know how to deal with the library budget, go ahead and take this class. The schedule is the same every year. The same courses happen in the same order. So you can plan ahead for over your 3-year certification period, which ones you can take each year based on timing and when they are. So you always have the whole schedule. This is this year's schedule. It's always the same every year, but of course the dates, just tweak a little. Some of them are self-paced now. The communication class is now self-paced. You can take it any time. It doesn't have to be at any particular time. Intro to Cataloging is also self-paced, but it's a month-long course because it's much more in-depth training. Everything else are 2-week courses that take place during that particular time. Next one that is up for registration right now is Reference. It's open now. It'll start July 7th, and I am actually the instructor for that class. So what can library staff earn CE for? We've got a separate page for that. It's very similar to the library board one. Same amount of time to earn an hour or 1 hour or 0.5 of CE. Online, in-person workshops, webinars, conferences, taking academic courses in this case you can, taking online courses you can earn CE for. And if you actually present, if you actually attend the Nebraska Library Association conference or ARSL or ALA, PLA, anything, and you're an actual presenter, you can earn CE for that as well. So not just attending something yourself. You have your own CE form where you'll submit what you attended. Holly Duggan is our CE coordinator. If you have any questions about what does count or what doesn't count for certification for board or staff, you can reach out to her. Mary handles keeping everything up to date. You do got to give some time for Mary for both board and CE to get your credits reflected on your record. If you're concerned about something's missing, just reach out to either one of them and they can get that updated. All right, so that is your board and librarian certification programs. Any questions about that? We do have a question. Okay. Do newly hired directors count as certified in the accreditation process if they are provisionally certified, still working on full certification? Yes, if you are working towards your certification, it does count. So if you have a provisional record certification right now, that does count towards your current one. And boards as well. We know, as you saw from the list, sometimes boards and people fall behind in their hours and we give an extension. As long as you're working towards it and we see that you're submitting things, it does count. So provisional certifications do count. And I think you can see here, yeah, we do have here also, and this is where for anything, you can get a provisional certificate if if you're working on the one that's, you don't have a degree in library science, but you're working on your MLS or your bachelor or associate certificate, you let us know you're working on it, you get a provisional, and that does count. Yes. You do still have to do those 45 hours of CE, even if you do have a library degree every 3 years. You just don't have to do the basic skills classes because you've got the degree or you're working towards the degree. Where do the guidelines go here? Now, for a library director, you do need to be certified at a particular level based on the population served at your library. So not only to be certified, but at a particular level of education. And this is based on the legal service area that you have reported to us on your public library survey. It's level 1 for 524, 2,499, et cetera, up to right now it's 10,000 or above. You have to have a master's in library science. We are possibly tweaking that. Keep your eyes open for news on that. But generally, the larger community is, the higher level of education we would like you to have. And these are the minimum levels. You can have higher, of course, for each of them. So of course, in the largest communities, you would need, in order to be certified, you would need to have your master's, library science, library information science, whatever they call them. So that's your library director. Library staff also would need to be certified at the right level, but it's not a requirement, it's just an extra thing they can do. Excuse me. So that is certifications and what your director is required to have. Any other questions on that? Nope. We do have another one that came in. Do library certification hours roll over if you have extra before your due date? Good question. And this would also apply to boards. No, they do not. So if you do more than the hours required, more than the 20 or the 45, great for you, good job, but you don't get to save them up and have them go into the next 3-year period. It's whatever happened during those 3 years applies to just that 3-year certification period. When you start up again, you go back to 0 and you have to do a new 45 hours or 20 hours in the next 3-year period. So no, they do not add up and roll over. Good question though. All right, so let's get through the rest of these qualifications here. You do need to receive local funding from your city, village, township, or county. So some sort of budget money that comes from your municipality. We already talked about, you have to have done the most recent public library survey and supplemental survey. The NLC supplemental survey is extra things that we wanted to ask of you that are not included on the National Public Library Survey. You submit that all together. You have to have paid library staff during hours the library is open, following Nebraska state statutes for minimum wage. We do understand that sometimes you need to have volunteers come in and cover the desk, keep the library open when the director or staff are off at a meeting or an event or on vacation. Board members sometimes help out, not paid, and that's okay. It's okay to have temporary volunteers every now and then, but they cannot be your regular staff. As I said, you do not have to be, we do have volunteer-run libraries in Nebraska, and that's great. That's awesome. But volunteer-run libraries cannot be accredited because they are not paying their staff. Your director has to have an email address that they check and keep up on. This is how we communicate with you. We do not make phone calls or send things out in the mail generally to reach out. We can reply to things like that and sometimes, but you got to have an email that you're keeping up on. That's how I'm going to contact you about starting up your accreditation process. Nebraska state statutes state that you have to make your basic services available without charge. You cannot charge residents that are your taxpayers. You can have non-resident fees, non-resident cards. Some libraries charge for. That's perfectly fine. But anyone that are in your tax districts that pay, that help provide that funding from your municipality, you have to give free services too. So checking out books, using your resources, and providing reference services to them. And we require that you also provide internet at no charge. Do not charge per minute or per hour use for using the internet in your library. And then the last requirement, and this is also a state statute, that you must make an annual report to whoever your local government is. In the state statute, it says sometime in February is when this is due. So this would be an annual report talking about what you did for the previous year. So those are the 12 minimum things that every library has to do in order to be accredited. And you can see once you check all those off, it then pops up and says, based on these, you meet the minimum qualifications and you can now apply for accreditation. When you click that box, it does go to where you log in. This user ID and password is the same one that you use to submit your public library survey. We didn't want you to have to remember another password. We all have too many passwords to remember as it is. So the same one you use in Bibliostat to submit the public library survey, you would use here to submit your accreditation application. And we have a helpful password lookup here so you can look up and see what yours is. If you don't know what that is off the top of your head. Okay, we've got a question about the internet. Does the no charge for internet apply to hotspots? Yes, that would be providing internet access to people. I don't know of libraries that are generally charging for people to borrow a hotspot. Now, if you have like replacement fees or things like that, or damage fees, that's okay. But no, you wouldn't be able to charge someone to check out a hotspot from your library and then be accredited. Oh, interesting. Okay, good. Thank you so much for the explanation, because I was about to my head was about to go a little pop, because I had never heard of libraries charging to loan out hotspots. And also previously, and if people know, there was the Emergency Connectivity Fund that was created by the FCC in response to COVID, gave libraries money to purchase hotspots and service to loan out. Requires also that you don't charge the people using the hotspots to use those. This person says that my city keeps asking if we can charge to offset the costs of purchasing and providing the hotspots. Wow, yeah, please, I hope you wouldn't do that. The idea of libraries generally is giving access to things for free, but if they are damaged or lost, of course, replacement costs, yes. But if your library wants to maintain their accreditation, you cannot charge for any sort of internet you're providing, and yes, that would include the hotspots, so tell them no. All right, so any other questions about the 12 minimum qualifications? Excuse me. All right, so let's get into the rest of the actual accreditation application form and the specifics of that. The form has 5 different sections: governance and planning, resources, services, cooperation and collaboration, and communications. Some of the guidelines in the application form are items that come from what you've already reported to us on your public library survey. So these will be automatically pre-filled on your application. We don't want you to have to resubmit to us things you've already sent to us. So we pull that data and automatically pre-fill it into some of the sections, some of the guidelines. If something has changed since you submitted your survey, as I said, the survey usually opens sometime in November and closes in February. You might not be submitting this application until July, August, September, October. Sometimes things can change between that, and that's okay. Let us know, and we can change those answers behind the scenes for your specific application form. I want your accreditation to reflect what you are currently doing, not what maybe was the situation back in like November, December. For example, maybe you said we don't have a friends group in December, but we've got one now. It's 6-8 months later. We can change that and check that off for you so you can earn those points. So let me know if anything on your application form doesn't match up anymore correctly with what your most recent survey was. Some of the guidelines are done as peer comparisons. We compare your library to libraries of a similar size, within 15% above or below your population, legal populations served. These are things, rather than saying you must be open a certain number of hours, you must have this many staff, we decided that was also not useful with unique situations. So we compare you to sizes, communities of the same size, saying let's meet this peer. And there are 9 guidelines that deal with that: local income, hours, circulation, collection size, attendance per capita of programs, etc. You can either meet the average or the average, the mean, or the median of this. Average meaning average of all of the libraries that you're a peer to, or the median, the value lying in the middle when you have everyone arranged in size order. So either one of those that you meet. The math is all done for you, so don't worry about that. It's all done for you in the form. Yay, Sam. Thanks to him for figuring this out and doing all this for us. He's our stats guy. So as long as you meet either one of those, you earn that guideline. If you have any, when you are in your accreditation application form, and I'll show you that, you can see all the libraries you are being compared to. If you want to know their own data, you can reach out to Sam and he can send you the actual statistics that your peer library submitted. All this public library survey data is public across the whole country. It's a national survey, and almost all states post this out there. So it's all public information. So he can go and find, he has, of course, all of our Nebraska ones. Sometimes you might be compared to states or libraries in other states because we don't have enough in Nebraska close to your size. Generally, this is our really large or really small libraries. They're not enough in the same size. So we look out into Iowa, Kansas, South Dakota, anywhere in the country where we can find states, libraries that are similar size to yours and in similar type communities. But he can get you that data if you want to know what those libraries also reported on their survey. All right, so let's get into the application form, which I have over here. Yes. So here I have already logged into Atkinson Public Library's form. They are up for reaccreditation this year. Now I'm not going to submit their form for them. I don't want anyone to panic. We're just going to use it as a demo so you can see how the application form works live. All right, so in the upper right here, there's a box that has the total points that you have earned. As you can see, that box will float along as you scroll down through the form so you can see where you're at, how many you've earned based on what you've checked off. There is this yellow box at the top with some basic instructions showing you the different guidelines that we have pulled in from your public library survey data. They will be automatically checked off with a green check if you meet that guideline, or red X if you do not. These are not things that you can change on your form. They're automatically pulled in. Like I said, if you need to change something, you think the situation has changed, let me know and we can change them behind the scenes. You can view who are your peer libraries with this blue button here on the right. So here are the peer libraries for Atkinson this year, a whole bunch of libraries in Nebraska. Atkinson by legal service area is in the middle, and then there's other libraries that are smaller and larger. But within 15%, only 15% of theirs, so close to your size. Questions about those peer libraries of data, contact Sam. I mentioned earlier that we added some computer questions. If you have, these were done at a recommendation. As I said, people had mentioned we should, but Andrew Sherm, who's our IT person here in library development now, he came up with these questions for us. So if any questions about those, you can reach out to Sherm. Excuse me. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here because I'm going to show you. If you are in the middle of doing your form and you aren't ready to complete and finally submit it, and you want to save and come back later, you can do that. There's a submit application button for when you're totally done, but you can save and resume later. So if you click this save button, it will save all the items you've checked off, and then wherever you left off, and then you can come back later and finish it up. So if you get interrupted or realize you have to look up something else, you can do that. All right. me do this. All right, so let's get into the application form. First section, governance and planning. The first item is checked by default because you checked off those 12 minimum qualifications on the first page. Second item is, do you have your community's response plan? A plan needs to have been done sometime within the past 5 years, either actually written or updated. And you would check that, and you can see your total points over here went up from the 94 to 104. Uncheck that, goes back down. So as you check and uncheck things, your points will change. Something to note here is that this must be submitted to me, not approved. Used to say approved, and that didn't really make sense because I need this plan and your application form together so that I can evaluate them together before I approve your plan and approve your application. So you must have it submitted to me. If you review it annually, you can, you can see here how many points you will earn for having each of the things. 10 points for this, 5 points here. Help that's built in will pop open for any of the items that you might want to look more into. So if you don't check off that you have your community's response plan submitted to me, you're going to get this error. It is a requirement that you do submit that. So you will get this pop-up that says you must have a written one submitted. Please get it to Christa. So it will not let you go any farther in the application form unless you check off that box. So submit that to me, then work on your application form, and then you'll be able to check that off. So next we have library policies. So does your library have policies that address these topics? Now, this does not mean you have to have a policy that says it is the facilities policy or the gifts policy or the marketing policy, but if these topics are mentioned anywhere in your policies, you can check them off. So I don't know which ones Atkinson actually has. I'm just gonna randomly check things. So you just check off all the ones that your library has. And as you do, they get added up to your points. We do give you 3 more here that you can fill in other. If there's something we haven't mentioned here that we haven't already given you that you do have a policy for, you can tell us what it is and earn the points for that item too. Do you have a technology plan? This is a different plan from your community's response plan or strategic plan. It might be part of that. This is how are you keeping your technology up to date? Do you have a schedule for replacing computers? Do you have an inventory of what you currently have of any type of technology in the library? And do you keep that up to date by reviewing it annually? And now here's the Library Friends Group or Foundation questions. These are the first ones that were pulled in from the survey. As you can see, it tells you this was just, you supply this on your supplemental survey. They have both a Friends Group or Foundation, so those are automatically selected. I can't uncheck those. Part 2 is resources. Income, facilities, what do you have that helps provide your services? And this is your first peer comparison. So you can see your library's local income, the peer average, and the peer median. As long as you meet one of these 2, you earn the points for that guideline. You don't have to meet both. So as long as you are equal to or greater than either one of those, you earn the points. So they have that. What hours are you open? The schedule of open hours reflects an attempt to meet the needs of the community. Have you asked what they want your hours to be? You don't have to have changed them based on what they tell you, but at least you're asking. You can earn points for that. Does your library building meet all federal, state, and local codes for safety and access? Gosh, I hope so. But we do have help here where it links to American with Disabilities Act, Nebraska State Building Codes, et cetera, that can help you know what those codes are. For staffing, what is your expenditures on staff? So this is your salary and benefits. This is also where the certification of your library director is automatically checked off here. This is based on, because we know if your director is certified and at what level. And then as I said, previously, if you have any additional staff that are certified, they would be in our system as well. We would know that. And depending on your population, you have to have a certain number of additional staff also certified, and you can earn those points. And you can see here for this library, they don't. That's where they've got one of those red X's automatically pre-filled. A number of library personnel is another peer comparison. And then do you have somewhere a line item on your library budget for professional development for your staff? Money to send staff to workshops or to conferences for their continuing education. And this is something you would have submitted, reported to us on your public library survey. Technology is the next section. Do you have an integrated library system? Also pre-filled from the survey. Is it available online? Do you have broadband internet access at speeds adequate to meet user needs? Now, you will notice here that many of these guidelines are on the honor system. I don't have any way of checking to see if your speed is fast enough for what your users need. I'm trusting you to tell me that you do, because you do. If people are constantly complaining about the speed, if your staff is saying it's taking forever to load these web pages or these documents, you should not check that item. Do you have Wi-Fi from your public library survey? Do you have technology accommodations for people with disabilities? This would be things like screen readers or adjustable desks, those kind of things. And similar to broadband, to your internet access, do you have an adequate number of computers? Are people constantly waiting in line to use because there's not enough to go around? Then you probably should not be checking that item off. This is something that would be mentioned potentially in your community needs response plan or your technology plan, how many computers you actually have. And then these are the new questions that were added in 2022 about computer security. Are you running any end-of-life operating systems? No, you should not. Reminder here, Windows 10 end of life is this October, this year. So as of October 2025, Microsoft will no longer support Windows 10. It'll still work, but there will be no support or security updates for it. You need to be on Windows 11 by October of this year. If you are not, you can't check that box. Check in with Sherm, he can help you with all of these things. Does your operating system and software, do you update it at least monthly? Check on those security updates. Do you have a separate separate login for staff and customers? You do not want your users to be able to get into the behind-the-scenes admin parts of your computers. Something also from your public library survey: do you have any reboot or restore software that are you using to wipe your computers every night? Have you secured your public computers BIOS? And there's help. Here's where we've got a lot of good help. I don't know a lot about, I know some about technology, but not nearly as much as Sherm's. He's given us some great explanations about a lot of his questions. So you can look at that. Do you have any filtering option, DNS filtering or any sort of filtering for web browsing? We do offer through the Library Commission a free filtering search service, DNS filter. This is something that we have funding to provide for all public libraries in the state to have a filter. This would be for complying with SIPA, Children's Internet Protection Act, for E-rate or other federal grants, or if you just want to keep your computers more secure. Sherm monitors this and installs it for you, keeps it up to date. So if you are interested, if you don't have a filter or you don't like the one you have right now, you're not happy with it, reach out to Sherm and he can get you set up with that. And then do you have a good next generation firewall? Your library's collection is the next section of the form. Does it reflect the mission and goals of the library? I hope so. Mission and goals, your library's mission is in your community's response plan. How do you do on weeding? This is something from your survey. You have to do at least 3% per year. That's the general guideline for that. Does your library staff use online websites to provide information to your users? This means going out on the internet and doing a search, finding information from library websites, news sites, whatever is out there. And these next 4 items, as you can see, they're all just pre-checked. This is all peer comparisons taken from your public library survey information. Annual expenditure on materials, circulation of items per capita, turnover rate in the collection, and collection size. Part 3 is services. What services do you offer? Do you have any outreach programs to people who cannot come into the library? So this would be taking your story time out to somewhere else, delivering books to the senior center, etc. Do you use interlibrary loan, either through your own library? Do you do it yourself, or do you use the library commissions service that we offer? Here's your peer question comparison question on attendance per capita in programs. How many people are coming in and attending your programs? Do you have any library programs that you target specific audiences? Meaning this is a program specifically for teens or for seniors. And these would be things that would be mentioned in your community's response plan. So I will look at that plan. And if you happen to mention something in your plan that, we have a teen program where teens come in and make these terrariums, but you haven't checked this box or mentioned that here, I'm going to reach out to you and say, hey, you said you have this thing. You should really check this so you earn those 10 points. Do you use the databases that we provide through the Library Commission? This is our Nebraska Access databases that are available that libraries can sign up to get passwords to provide to your community. And then in addition to that, do you pay for any other databases that you have beyond the ones that we provide for you for free? Any questions so far on the application form before I get into the last couple of sections here? No? All right. Part 4 is cooperation and collaboration, working with other city departments or organizations. Does your library director or some board member attend at least 2 of your village, city council, whichever board meetings a year? This is definitely something you probably are hopefully doing, where you're doing at least that minimum annual report, but also attend other meetings beyond just submitting that annual report and letting them know what's happening at the library. Does your staff participate in community organizations and groups? This would be things like the Rotary, Kiwanis, business groups, service organizations. Do you have staff that are part of those groups? And then they also advocate and talk about the library when they are participating, letting them know, hey, the library can do something help with you, or maybe we can partner up on something. Do you have a teen board? Many libraries are getting these, starting up these teen advisory boards. It seems to be an age when we kind of sometimes lose our users coming to the library. Parents bring in their little kids all the time. Adults go back and use the library for resources. But sometimes the teens, you just lose them. If you create a teen board, then sometimes they will maybe bring more youth into your library. Do you cooperate with other local organizations for shared services? So this would be things like other civics group, Parks and Rec. Do you maybe have a story walk and it's in the park? So that would be providing a service together, co-sponsoring it together. Do any of your library board members or staff do anything with advocacy? The Nebraska Library Association has an annual advocacy day. It's usually sometime in March. You come here to Lincoln, you go and talk to your legislators about the libraries and encourage them to support them. But beyond that, do you also do anything national with ALA or PLA or every library participate in anything that they do? And then do you do any sort of group resource sharing or consortia that you are a member of? Overdrive for ebooks, Nebraska Card for library cards that can be used at other libraries. The Pioneer Consortium is a shared catalog. These are just examples. So are there any sort of those regional or statewide resource sharing that you do, group purchases? And the last section is communications. How do you get the word out about what's happening at your library? First, on your library website, do you post your mission statement and your policies? All those policies you answered in the first section, are they on your website? And then do you provide for the public to interact, either on your website, like commenting on your blog posts? Do you have any sort of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, etc.? And so do you have those? Do you post them at least monthly? And then can people comment? Can your users comment to you? Now, these 2 items, these are items. Now, I said earlier, many of these guidelines are on the honor system, but things that I can check on, I will. So if you say you have a library website and you post your mission statement and policies, I'm going to go look. If something is not there, I will reach out to you and ask about it. If I don't see your policies, I can't find them, I'll ask, are there somewhere I can't find them? Can you direct me to them? Same thing with your Facebook or any of your social media. I will look and make sure you are posting things regularly. If you have a Facebook page and you haven't posted to it for 2 years, no, someone's going to have to get on top of that. But beyond that, you still need to use non-internet based things for PR. Not everyone's online, not everyone likes to be online and keeping up with these kind of things. So you still need to do things like, if you have a local newspaper, radio station, putting posters up in the local laundromat, etc. Any ways of reaching out to your community that is not social media related. Do you have a place where you do exhibits and displays? Like someone has a teacup collection and then you have a case you can display them with in. Do you have a bulletin board that you let the public use? So this is doing community connection, not just a bulletin board that you put your own notices on, but something where you actually let the public post things. Do you report regularly to your village board, city council, whatever? This can be monthly, but it doesn't have to be. They probably meet monthly, but you might be on the agenda every other month or something. So do you report regularly to them? And do you also put those reports on your website so the community can then read them afterwards as well? So a report about the things that have happened in the last couple of months in the library. Here's the actual report we submitted to the village board. And then do you also communicate with local business leaders and civic organizations, going to your, if you have a business group or the Rotary Club and the Kiwanis, those kind of things, not just being a member of them like on the previous item, but reporting to them and saying, hey, I would like to be on your agenda for the next month's meeting. I want to talk about what the library's got to offer, or I'd like to talk to you about what we might be able to partner on. What do you all need from the library? What you think what you'd like us to do for you? Chamber of Commerce, things like that. All right, and that's the last section. Then it automatically fills in your director's information here. If someone else is submitting it, you can change that. And you can see here our point totals of total up at the bottom and our floating box there. And I checked everything, they got 253. I don't know if this is accurate at all. I was just going through the form, but showing you how that it works. If you're good to submit it, you'd hit submit application. I'm not going to do this, of course, because I don't want to submit this on their behalf. And then you would get a notification that I had been sent to me and I would receive that. Otherwise, if you still need to work on it, you use that save and resume later button. All right, so that is the online accreditation application form. What questions do you have about that? Anything you want to know more about any of the items? Anything if you're confused about any of the guidelines, how they work? Type into that question section on your GoToWebinar interface. We are a little past halfway through the workshop. Sorry about that, I wanted to get through this whole application in the first half here. So after I answer any questions you have about this, we will take our break. Does anybody have anything they want to ask about this or about anything I've mentioned so far about accreditation? No? All right, I think we will take our break then. It is 2:42 by my watch here. Let's take a little over 5-minute break. We'll come back at 2:50, so 10 to 3, to do the second half of the workshop. And that is when we'll go into the community needs response plan. So take a little over 5-minute break here. Get up, walk around, refill your coffee, hit the restroom, whatever you need to do, and we will come back in a little over 5 minutes to continue with the second half of the workshop. Yes, okay. Okay, we are back. I am back. I hope you're all back. All right, so in the first half of the workshop, we went through the basics of accreditation, the benefits, the process, the schedule, and we looked at our application form. So now we're going to look at community needs response planning. This is a separate document that you will submit to me in addition to submitting the online accreditation application form to apply for or to reaccredit your library. And we have a whole separate page for community needs response planning. There we go. So the community needs response plan is a document that if you are reaccrediting, you have submitted before at some point. Previously, it was called the strategic plan, but we changed the name of that, and it was actually something that was Scott Childers, who's with us, I mentioned earlier, he had been using, and we decided to use as well. I decided to use as well in the accreditation process. Because it reflected better what it is. A strategic plan could be your plan for your everything your library does, your entire process and everything that might be that you do. The community response plan is not the same as that. We do not want to know everything your library is going to be doing. We just want to have you take a look at what's going on in your community, figure out what their recent needs are, and then come up with a few specific goals. So basically just getting you thinking outside the box, thinking outside the library about the fact that your library is community focused, that you need to support the unique needs in your community. And so this helps you look at that in a way and then come up with a few things that you might do based on this information that you've gathered. So you are responding to the needs of your community, hence community needs response plan. Now, if you have a previous one of these, you can just update it for the new time frame. If you need to write a new one, we've got a lot of resources and guides here that are going to take you through to show you how to write one from scratch or update a certain section of your current plan. If you are reaccrediting and you don't know where your previous plan is, that's okay. Reach out to me. I should have copies of all of them here from when you previously submitted them, and I can get you a copy of the previous one that was done. If you're a new director and don't know what the previous one did with it, and you can't remember what you did with it, reach out to me and I can get you that. So there are 7 main elements that must be in any plan that you submit to me. The format of the plan, as far as how you write this up and in what order, well, they generally kind of feed into each other, so they're going to happen in this order, most likely. It can be anything. There's no specific format it has to be in. You just need to include these items. It has to be something that was written or revised within the most recent 5 years. We want it to be current and useful to you. So either brand new written or at least looked over and updated within the past 5 years. And as I said earlier, you can send me drafts of this plan or just parts of it if you want me to evaluate them or review them and give you some feedback before you decide that it's your final version of your plan. I'm going to quickly go through these, and then I'm going to get into some resources we have to help you develop all of these elements more. First, the library you have to have your library's mission statement, whatever mission statement, vision statement, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call it at your library. What is your reason for being? What is your library's motto? Generally, this is something you should review every now and then. Things might change. You want to tweak the wording. A community profile. This is your library's demographics. What makes your community unique? So looking up census data, numbers, all those trends in your community. Then an assessment of your community's needs. What is your community worried about? Your whole, the reason for this is responding to those needs. So you have to find out what they are. This is not going to be what the library needs, meaning we want to provide this service. You're doing it the opposite direction. You're looking to see what's happening in your community and all sorts of things. Lots of them will be things you can't respond to and have anything to do with, can't help with. But what is going on out there and what are people concerned about? Then you will analyze your library's own strengths and resources and any barriers or to providing services or resources and opportunities for improvement. This is the section of the community's response plan that was changed back when we did our self-evaluation in 2022. Previously, this was the SWOT analysis that some of you may know: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That was the biggest struggle, I think, for libraries in doing these plans and updating them, was this section. They didn't know how to do it. It was very business oriented. It was also split up between library strengths and weaknesses, so internal and then external barriers and opportunities, and people struggle with making that distinction. So I changed it to be more inclusive of the library and just a little more broader defined. And I'll show you more about that when we get into the resources you can use. And then taking all this information, your community's demographics, community's needs, what the and your analysis of your library, what are some things that you can respond to? What does this all mean, and what can the library do? So a summary of what all this means. Once you have all that information, then you are going to come up with some specific goals. 3 goals would be perfect. Of specific things, new services you're going to implement, expansion of services you're going to do, researching some sort of service, something specific that you're going to do based on this information you gathered. Now, you're going to do lots of things at your library that are programming and research and services and programs. I just want you to give me 3 that are based on this information you've gathered in this plan. This is basically just an activity for you to go through this process for these things, and then you could use this for everything else you do at the library possibly. And then an evaluation plan. This will be an evaluation of your community's response plan itself. You should annually be looking at it, reviewing it, making sure it's up to date, that you're still up to, on track with whatever goals you came up with. And then a summary of your previous goals. Did you complete it? Did you not? Is it going well or not? So that is the 7 basic elements that have to be in your plan. Now, we have a lot of resources here for you. I've linked to various webinars and online, that we have held either through the Library Commission or have been held elsewhere. We did a census data session on Encompass Live back right after the census was done. I am going to show you how to look up some things in the census online, but this is a lot more in depth if you want to know more about that. Some webinars we've done about community engagement and figuring out what's going on in your community, assessment, evaluation, and planning area on the Web Junction website. Lots of great resources there that you can use to help look at what's happening in your community. And then, yes, these do say strategic planning, and I did say this is not a strategic plan, but these are 2 good sessions that were done that are just general about doing planning and looking at what's happening in your community. So even though they have the word strategic planning in it, don't panic. Don't want you to do a strategic plan, but they had some good tips and tricks in those sessions as well. We also have some examples of previous libraries' plans. These are good ones that I have pulled out specifically for you that you can use as a reference. You can follow their template, follow their format if you want to, but it just gives you the idea of the kind of plans that are submitted and are good examples. As I said, in 2022, we did change that SWOT analysis to a more general one. So these previous plans will mention SWOT and the new ones won't, but the previous ones are still good examples of well-written plans. So that's why they're still up there, still good to look at. And these are all sorts of different versions. Let's see, here's Battle Creek. Got a fun little graphic on their front page, and they jump right into their plan itself. Mission statement, their community profile using the 2020 census, community needs, et cetera, et cetera. Whoops. Here's Clay Center strategic. There's what's it called, a strategic plan back then. They have a table of contents first. You can have a table of contents if you want to. So you can then see here where that is, and then they go into the planning process, who is on the planning team, their community profile, etc. So these are all going to look a little different, but they're all good examples that you can use as you are going through your plan. So if you are trying to write a new plan or just update your current one, we have some worksheets here that you can use if you want to. These are not required, they're just can be helpful to you, and some extra documents and how-to guides and links to various places you can find more information or data. These are just, this is not the only way to do your plan. It's just some data worksheets we've put together to help you get through it. You can use all of them if you want to. If you fill out all of these worksheets, then and do all the things on them, you will then be able to fill in on this community's response plan summary all of the information that is required, and you'll have all of the elements required for a community's response plan. So you have everything will be there if you follow that. Up to you. You could just use one of these. If you're just struggling with the community needs section, just use that one. They're just up here to try and help you through the process. First up, we have a 12-step program, community needs response plan process in 12 steps. Now this does use our worksheets and help guides. So this is just one way to get there, not the only way. Use what you know, use what you're good at. This is helpful if you have no clue where to start. So this planning process is basically step-by-step what you should do first, second, third, as you're going through the process of doing your community needs response plan or updating one. So this can be your cheat sheet for keeping on track. And then it does refer in different sections to which worksheet or help guides might be useful. So first thing you want to do when doing a plan like this is figure out who is going to be on the team. You want to have a good group of people that will help you work on this. As a library director, if you are the library director in charge of this, do not go it alone. This is not something you should do on your own. It might be a pretty big project, lots of moving parts. You're going to want help, and you should have help. You should have input from your library staff, library board members, possibly people in the community. So pick maybe one staff person to be on the team in charge of this, who's really interested in this. One board member can volunteer to be part of the team. So you have board involvement. And reach out to any stakeholders in your community, people who have invested in the library, the super user, the head of the superintendent of the schools, someone who might be really interested in helping develop what the library is going to be doing. You do want to be, the size of this is going to vary depending on your community size, of course, how many people you have available. You want enough people to have a good back and forth and discussion, but not too much to be unwieldy. Someone does have to be in charge of this team to develop that consensus building, where not everyone's ideas are going to become part of the plan, and that's okay. You need someone who is really good at navigating that and facilitating those kind of discussions and making sure everyone is heard, even if their ideas don't necessarily end up in the final product. You need to make sure that people are working together. Most likely that would either be the library director, board member, who is taking the reins on that. We do have a helpful worksheet here. There it is. Let me open that up. Where you can keep track of all the different steps you're doing, the things you need to do, who will be in charge of it, when they're starting, if there's a target date, if they finished it, and if you go back and review their work. So this is just a nice cheat sheet. Make as many copies of this as you need for all the different steps you're going to be taking. So it could help you just organize who's going to be on your team and what they're going to do and when you expect them to complete things. We do have a helpful guide here about mission statements. That's that first required element in your plan. as I said, this is, why do you do what you do? Who are you doing it for? What do we value? What do we think our community values from us? We have some examples here. New York Public Library, major, gigantic library system, has a one-line, quick mission statement. The mission of the New York Public Library is to inspire lifelong learning, advance knowledge, and strengthen our communities. That's nice. And then I have some examples from other libraries here in Nebraska that are a little longer. Oakland Public Library provide quality materials and services, fulfilling the educational, informational, cultural, and recreational needs of the community, welcoming, respectful, and professional, etc. So you can look at these and just see what you think yours could be if you don't already have one. So that's your getting started planning. And there's some other resources we have here too that you can use to learn more about project management and why you would do this planning. Our second section here is your community, you're working on your community profile, gathering your demographics, your data about your community. We have a worksheet here, community profile. There it is. Now, don't get overwhelmed. It's a lot, but this is based on the data that you can get from the U.S. Census Bureau, either from the most recent U.S. Census or from the most recent American Community Survey. So this is a blank document that you can use and insert the data about your community. And I'm going to show you how to look up these numbers in a minute here. So this is all the kind of things that you can find. Not all of it you're going to need for your plan or for your purposes. You'll just use the parts that you get data for that's important to you. So you've got age range, education, language spoken, household family economics, et cetera, et cetera. Some things here are not data. This is more subjective, cultural characteristics of your community. This would be something you would just have to write up yourself in this particular case. We do have a companion profile for this, which is state data. Sam Shaw puts this together for me every year, and he gathers the most recent data for the state of Nebraska as a whole. So if you want to compare your community to the state, you can use these numbers. So he's already gathered all the statewide numbers for you. The population of the state, legal service area, and then all the same thing, but you see this is all filled in, and this is all state of Nebraska numbers. Education, language, work life, economics, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, these things that are specific to each community would not be able to be pulled from just the data numbers. Those parts on here are blank, but he's just pulled in the actual numbers for us. Now, to gather some of this data, you might have information from your community, from your municipality. They might have census data already gathered in a report of some sort, demographic data. And if it's already there, grab it. You don't have to go and gather it yourself if someone's already done that for you. Don't reinvent the wheel, please. But if they don't have that for you, or if you want to just look some things up yourself, you can use the U.S. Census Bureau information. The U.S. Census is done every 10 years, of course. The most recent one was done in 2020, so you can use that. But there's also the American Community Survey, which is done in between censuses, where you can find even more up-to-date data. So you can look in here at profiles and information from that in-between survey that is done. On the main U.S. Census Bureau page, data.census.gov, this is where you can look up your numbers from the most recent census and from the community survey. They've updated it recently. It's a very nice, clean website. Basically, just type in your city or your area here that you want to know more about. They've got lots of tables and maps that they put together based on all this data for you, graphics that you can use, microdata, and lots of guides, their own training videos about how to use the data, how to look things up. But I'm going to go up the top here, and I'm going to type in it, since it is who we were looking at their form before, their application form. I'm going to put in Atkinson. And I just put in Atkinson, and you can see there are multiple Atkinsons. I could have put in Atkinson, Nebraska, if I wanted to make sure I got Nebraska, but right here is Atkinson City, Nebraska. So if I choose that, we get to Atkinson's census data. And you can see here, total population from the 2020 census, it tells you. But then here we've got lots of different data, race, demographics, age and sex, total and native populations, and you can do them in table format, map format, charts, whatever way you like to visualize data. They've put together a version of it probably. And then you can see they also tell you this is from the most recent decennial census, the one in 2020, but this data comes from the American Community Survey, more up to date. So they do let you know where they're pulling that from. And they have got so many data sets here, as you can see, lots of things you can dig down into. If you are a big data person, you'll be happy in here. There are some related searches here that they do offer up to you. So if you want to know more about housing, you can specifically dig in, click here and go right to just this housing data for Atkinson, or government or employment, whichever area you're wanting to look more into. I like to look at this profile here. This is a nice general gathering up of all the information about Atkinson. So if you click on view profile, it will bring up Atkinson City in Nebraska, and then just the basic numbers, population, employment level, families, income, poverty, housing, race and ethnicity, et cetera, et cetera. And then as you scroll down, they bring you some graphs showing you, how things compare to each other, native or foreign-born population, age of people in the community, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a nice resource. I think I like to jump into the profile because it kind of gathers everything up nicely for you. So gathering this data is important to make sure that you're getting the actual numbers and the trends happening in your community. Sometimes you may have people who are saying things like, well, there's no young kids in our community. We never see any little kids running around. We're just an older population. Well, maybe. You can get the numbers from here and find out, actually, according to the census data, we've got lots of young children, lots of young families moving into the community recently. Just because, someone's anecdotal information says, no, I haven't seen them, doesn't mean that's what's true. The numbers don't lie, hopefully. So you can verify what people claim is happening if it is or isn't happening. Back it up with the numbers. Now, obviously you serve your community, your city, that is your tax base, but you may also have people coming in and using your library who are not just from your city. And they are your users too. They are the people whose needs you might want to respond to as well. So you will also want to look at census data from not just your city, like Atkinson, but possibly your county or a city down the road from you. So for Atkinson is in Holt County. So I'm going to type in Holt. Now, just typing in Holt, that brings up cities. So I'm going to add county. And there's actually Holt County in Nebraska and Missouri. So we are going to choose Nebraska's. And once it loads up here, there we go. You get the same data and the same information, but for the county as a whole. So if you know that people from the whole of Holt County are coming to your library, you can look at their numbers. If you don't serve the whole county, but you just have one city that's down the road from you that comes, look up their name. And look up their numbers and use their numbers in addition to the ones for your own city. So you should know who is using your library generally or who might be coming through the door and be able to pull up those specific numbers. So any questions about gathering that data, the census data there? No. All right. So after you've got your data, you're going to look at you want to gather find out what your community actually needs. There are lots of ways you can gather this information. The goal is what's important, not the method. If there's already been a community survey done by your Chamber of Commerce, by your municipality, within the last 5 years, then you can just use that report. Don't go and do all this work if it's already been done for you. So look to see if that's been done, if someone's done some sort of a focus group or a community survey. get a copy of that and use that information to put into your community needs response plan. Just make sure you tell me the survey was done by the city and this is what they came up with. If there hasn't been something done, or if you want to supplement it, you can do various things. And this sheet here, there we go, gives you some ideas about the kind of things that you could do. Now, you don't have to do all of these. These are just a bunch of examples of things you can do, and a sheet you can use to fill in who was there, what happened, who's in charge of it, what you did. And the goal of these, gathering this information, it can sometimes be a struggle for the people who you're asking the questions of. They are going to see the library coming to them and asking questions, and they're going to assume, oh, you want to know what I want from the library. You want to know what we think the library is doing, good or bad. But that's not what you're wanting to ask. You are trying to find out what's happening in the community, outside the library, not related to the library at all. So you might need to either direct them in the right way and say, no, 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 not us, the city, Atkinson, what's happening in Atkinson. Or you might need to let them get it out of their system. Let them answer a couple of questions, talk about the library, but then steer them towards, well, what about the city? What do you think? How do you think it's going here? How are the sidewalks? Do we have enough dog parks or areas to walk dogs or trails? Because they're going to want to get that out, but then lead them to the right kind of questions that you're trying to ask. It also may be hard for you as a library person or library supporters or staff to also ask those questions too, because you're probably used to just asking or thinking about what can the library do? What should the library do? Look at the community. Don't think about the library to start. So you could do focus groups, do an open group, invite everyone to come to a city meeting or a group meeting. Bribe with food is always good. We'll have coffee and cookies. Come and tell us what you think about the community. Make sure you have someone who is a facilitator who's good at guiding people, keeping people on track, not letting someone monopolize the conversation, reaching out to people who haven't said anything to ask, what do you think about this? You could do something more specific, key informant interviews. So asking to meet with a specific person, someone who has influence in the community, the superintendent of the school, a parent who's a super user of the library, or not a user at all of the library. You want to get their input as well. Why aren't you coming? Why aren't they coming to the library? What do they think about their community? Religious group, etc. This can be easier because you can pick who'll be in the group rather than just making an open free-for-all, like an open come to the meeting focus group. You'd specifically invite someone and say, I would like to talk to you about what's happening in the community. Ask them, what does your group need? What does your church group need? What could the school use more from the community? We actually have some sample questions here that you can use as well, sample community questions. And this is the kind of thing we're talking about, not asking what's happening with the community, how satisfied are you with the library, but how satisfied are you with living in our community? What do you like most, least? What you say the most critical issue facing the community. So getting them just thinking about their community as a whole. We also have an example of a key informant interview. So this is a fake example with Brookville Economic Development Corporation, asking them what are the problems facing our community regarding employment, who does this affect, what caused the problem, getting this CEO of this corporation, who's a bigwig in the community probably, to answer these kind of specific questions. There we go. You could also do a survey, online survey, paper survey, whatever works best for you. Some people work with a Chamber of Commerce or whoever does your local utility bills. You can put the survey in those kind of mailings. If you have an online survey, you can put a tiny little flyer in that says, go to this URL to fill out the library survey. We want to know what's happening, what you think about what's going on in the community. Surveys are great because some people might give more honest answers, because if it is done anonymously rather than in person to you. So if you're looking for that kind of input, a survey would be good. Be aware you might get some not too friendly responses depending on who is responding, but don't take anything personally. And your own personal observations are useful as well. You live in your community, you're in your city, you can just see what's happening. You can see that there are kids, teens running around loose all the time, and don't have anything to do. Note that and say, maybe what can we do at the library to help with that? Those kind of things that you just might see yourself. Now, the kind of information you're going to gather is going to be a lot, possibly, and a lot of it is going to be things that you at the library cannot do anything about. They're going to complain about the sidewalks are falling apart. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough daycares a lot of us with young children have moved in. There's no daycares, nowhere to take our kids. You're going to see a lot of things that you can't do anything about, but some things will jump out at you as something that you can work with. And those needs will feed into your goals when we get to those. So once you've gathered all of what the community needs, then you want to look at the library. Take stock of your library. And we have a sheet here that you can use to help guide you to do that. This is where you're going to be maybe doing some brainstorming with your staff or your board or your users at the library about what is good about the library, what are you struggling with. Might just do some crazy brainstorming and refine what you come up with later. So you're trying to take what you know about the library and then some of these other items towards the bottom, what you know about your community, and put them in one of these boxes. Is it a strength? Is it a resource you can use? Is it a barrier to doing something? And then is there some opportunity for improvement or increasing this, doing better in this area? For these barriers and opportunities for improvement, it may be hard you need to be honest with yourself about, is our staff really good? Are our volunteers good? How are our facilities? Is the parking terrible? Do our hours not help everyone? Are we ADA compliant enough? So just be honest with what you think. This is something good to help you get your library staff involved in. They may have a lot of opinions and want to share them. Do it as a group exercise, do it as an anonymous individual, sort of exercise, so that people can, be honest with you about what they think is struggling at the library, or what are good things. What are your strengths and resources? People say that we as librarians sometimes struggle with patting ourselves on the back, with saying we did this thing and it's good, and bragging about yourself. Go ahead and do it, brag. So how is your staff and volunteers and director? Are they good at their job? Are they struggling? Are you unable to get staff in due to the barrier being not enough budget to pay them? Is there opportunities for improvement? Could you apply for one of those internship grants to have some extra staff during the summer? How are your facilities? The technology in the library. Do you have enough computers? Do you have good enough internet? Do you have a makerspace? Is that something you want to look into? How's your funding doing from your city, your municipality? Are you applying for grants? Do you have a foundation that helps you with funding? Are those areas you can improve on? Could you apply for grants? How is your collection? How's it organized? How is it working? How's the setup? What services do you offer? What programs and outreach you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And then we get into looking at the strengths and resources and barriers and opportunities for improvement in your city. How is the economy? What kind of technology is available elsewhere in the community? Is there somewhere else where people can go to access the internet or get training on how to use Microsoft Office or something? How is your community relations between the city and the people in it? The economy. Is there an employer that is coming into the community new, or is there an employer that is leaving? If there's a new one coming in, maybe you need to do some resume workshops so help people get their resume up so they can apply for jobs. If a business is leaving and there are going to be people who are needing to apply for unemployment because they've just recently lost their jobs, is that an opportunity to set up some programs about applying for unemployment or for other services? So this is where you're looking at what your library has and what your library has to offer and what things you might be struggling with, both your library and your city. So once you have all that information, your demographics, your community needs, what your library has to offer, then you work on developing your goals. What are you going to do with all this information? And as I said, what we require in the plan is 3 goals, 3 things you're going to do that are in response to these items, all this information that you've just gathered. Now, yes, your library does more than these 3 things. You do lots of things. I just want 3 specific things you're going to put into this plan to tell me we've done this work, we've looked at all this information, and we've come up with these ideas. Now, they might be something new, a new program you're going to offer, a new service. They may be an expansion of something you're doing, or just research into possibly doing something. Anything like that works. So you're going to explain what is the need you're responding to, what is the thing that your community members said they are concerned about or need help with, what is the end goal going to be, what program are you going to institute, and then how are you going to get there. So, for example, if you do have, as I mentioned, a lot of young people have moved into your community, and there have a couple of different daycares have popped up, have opened now. So let's reach out to those daycares. Let's bring story time to those daycares. They haven't been bringing their kids to us. Let's go to them. So your plan, your community need is there's lots of little kids now in town, and they might need more things to do. Our goal is to create a story time that is an outreach story time going out to those daycares. Now, to come up with your goals and to create them, writing SMART goals is an important way to do that. You want to have all your goals use this process. Now, I'll tell you right now, this document that we use as a resource does say university because it's from some university, but it can be used for any organization, in your case, the library. So a SMART goal needs to be, it's the acronym for a specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time framed. So in your plan, you need to have all of these things must need to be addressed with the goal that you write up in there. If you're missing one of these, I will come back to you and we'll have a discussion about that and question, where's this part? It's not measurable. You didn't say how you're going to measure it. Oftentimes people miss out on the time framed part. You don't put a specific date of when this will happen by or a target date. So specific means that you have an observable thing that you are going to do. What is going to be done? You're going to create an outreach story time to the local daycares. It needs to be measurable. You need to have some data. How are you going to track it? What are you going to track? How many times you go to the daycare? How many children attend when you were there? How often children don't attend, etc. But it does need to be attainable, something that your staff can actually accomplish. So don't go crazy and say, we are going to go 5 days a week to each of the daycares, the new daycares, each of the 3 new daycares in town. That would probably send your youth staff over the edge and might make them just rebel. So work with them and say, what do you think you could do? We could do maybe twice a week to this one daycare. We'll do a pilot project. Sure, that will work just fine. It needs to be relevant. So actually relevant to what these people need. So with all the data you've gathered of your demographics and your community needs, it obviously should definitely be relevant because you've used the data for that. So that should be the easiest one. And then time framed. You do need to put specific dates or date ranges of when this will happen. Now, it doesn't have to be on so-and-so dates we will hold all of these different story times, but more of something like, within the next 6 months, we will develop a plan to have this. And within a year, we will be at doing the story times. It also doesn't have to be that soon though. Remember, this plan will be for your next, most likely next 5 years of your accreditation period. So you can say, in 2 years, we will start working on this. We don't have time right now, we're working on a lot of other things, but in 2 years, we're going to institute this new program. And that's when we will working on this, getting this in place. And that's okay. But you do have to mention something time-wise. So that is your goals. Any question about goals and objectives? That is sometimes a part that some people struggle with writing those up. So anything that you're wondering about that, if you think something would work for that. Or any questions about taking stock in your library, your community needs, your community profile, running focus groups or surveys, etc. Oh, we do have a question here that just popped up. Hold on a sec, let me pull it up here. Whoops. Of course, I click on the right thing. All right, so someone wants to know, during this process, is there a threshold or percentage of the population that need to respond to the survey or participate in the process? Okay, so this is going back to doing your focus groups or surveys. Is there a percentage of the population that needs to respond? Me, do not have any rules about how many people we want you to have answer your surveys or participate in your focus groups. That's going to vary from community to community. It's a good question. I've actually had this asked a couple of times. It's a good question. How many people need to respond to our, and basically the question you're asking is, how many people need to respond to our survey or participate in our focus groups for it to be statistically significant? How many people need to do that? And there's no concrete answer. It depends on your population size, really. How many people do you have in your community? You want to have a good amount of people that give you a good answer that you can actually work with. It actually shows, oh, this percentage of people answered it, so it is a good survey and a good response. There are survey sample size calculators out there that you can use that have varying you can just plug in the numbers. There's a few things that you need to be aware of, like confidence level. How are you confident in that these answers are really valid and useful? Decide what your margin of error will be, how much, some answers are going to have to be kind of considered thrown out as they're not valid. General, typically between around 5%. But if you have like 500 people in your community, having 200 of them reply is a good answer. And as it gets larger, of course, you have more people. But any responses are good, if you ask me. So it's I wish I had a more concrete answer for that. I've had it asked so many times, but getting people to respond to surveys, I know, is hard. And when you get more than 50% response rate, people just celebrate, and that's great. But even if you get a smaller amount, it's what you got, and you can tell people, we based this on the survey that we asked you to submit, and only 25% of the community responded, so we did it based on that. If you wanted, your ideas responded to or your needs addressed, more of you should have responded to the survey. But look up some of those, statistical significance of surveys calculators if you want to see what might work for you to determine that amount. I do not look at your plans and say, oh, you didn't get enough survey responses, so I'm going to throw this out. You did your best. You actually asked, which is more than some places do. Let's see, we have another question that came in about the goals. Great. Do our goals have to be new? We have met a goal that we had set previously. Story time was instituted this summer. Good job. Can I include this or only future ones? Okay, so for this, you are planning for future. So no, you wouldn't be reporting what you did previously, unfortunately, unless this was on if it was in a previous community needs response plan or a strategic plan, you can report that we did do the previous thing. Yay, we successfully did that particular, and that would be part of your evaluation. But we need you to come up with something that you're going to be doing in the future at this time. So either something new or an expansion of something you're currently doing. So you've set up a story time. Is there something you're going to be doing more with it now that you've first instituted it? Is it going to be expanded? I mean, the goal could be maintaining it, and you'd want to explain if you're just going to be maintaining a current thing. We've struggled with this. We know that people aren't coming in. We're trying it out, or we're going to expand it to be more story times. We already have one, but we want to do more of them, that kind of thing. So it definitely has to be something new to it going forward for this particular purpose of this plan. So it's definitely something you're going to do in the future, ideally in the next 5 years, because that's when your accreditation covers. All right. Any other questions about the different parts of the plan? The last worksheet we have here is the evaluation. And this is evaluating the plan itself and the how is it still meeting our needs and the goals that you put into it. This is something evaluation should be done at least once a year. Generally, your library board would do that, or whoever was on the team. You might have a different evaluation team to do a major review of it, maybe like a couple years in, than who was on the original creation team, so you can get some new insights. But you would want to have some of the same people involved, possibly, so a mixture, so they can explain, well, this is why we did this, and the new people who weren't involved in the planning process can, bring a new view to it, possibly. The purpose is going to be to make sure that the plan is still working. This community needs response plan is not something you're going to write and then put up on the shelf and then pull it down in 5 years and see if you did the things. It should be a guide for you to get ongoing guide for you, something you look at least annually. Make sure these goals you set, like if it's bringing story time to the daycares, you did the things. So it is a living, breathing document. It can change during that time too. If you start working on creating, making this connection to the daycares and find out that they actually have no interest in this, then you can also switch gears and say, well, let's just invite them more proactively to come to the library. They aren't bringing the kids to the library. Maybe they didn't realize they could. Let's switch things up and say, well, let's schedule a time for your daycare to specifically come into a story time focused on them, rather than just your general ones that you always do. And that's okay. The evaluation, this is like I said, living, breathing document, as we say with these things. Changes along the way are fine. When you do your next plan, you will, in this evaluation, if you have a previous plan you did, check on those goals and report on what happened. Did it work? Did it not work? Failure is okay. Failure is, I'll say it, encouraged. We learn from them. We learn that it wasn't the right time to do this particular project. It wasn't the right time to initiate this new service. Maybe you decided you're going to do these outreach story times in the daycare, and then COVID-19 hit. Whoops. Yeah, that's okay. You just let us know it didn't happen, it didn't work, we decided not to do it. We lost staff, decided not to do it. Or it didn't work, we want to try again. Is that okay? Yes, you can respond with a goal that was your previous one and say, we're going to try again, we've come up with some new ideas. Here's how we're going to try and do it again this time around. Or because of COVID, we couldn't do the thing, we would like to try again. As long as those are still needs in your community and you can back that up, absolutely, not a problem. And once you have all of these worksheets, if you filled out all of these worksheets, you will have everything that you can fill into this summary that I showed you previously. All the parts are here that are required. Members of your team, demographic information, needs, library profile, goals, evaluation, how you will evaluate this plan. The dates of the plan should cover multiple years. As you're one on that, you'll notice on the examples I gave you, it always covers years, 2025 through 2029, whatever years it's going to cover. So we do need to know what the dates of this plan cover, so we know that. And then if you fill in all of these different parts on here, you will have a plan that you can submit to me. So that is all of the parts of the plan and the different resources that we have, various resources we have that can help you either write one of these from scratch if you need to, or update a current plan that you have. And don't forget, you can base yours on any of these examples I've put up here that I said are good, well-written plans. Base your process on those. Base your format on those. Make sure you change it to your library's information. A few things that are always stumbling blocks, as I mentioned, was that in the community profile, make sure you have the current census numbers in there. 2020 census being the most recent one, still very good, valid information. Your previous plan may have said 2010 census. Don't use those old numbers. I will look and make sure that the numbers have changed from your previous plan. I do if you were previously accredited, I do have your previous plan, and I will compare to make sure that you have changed things and you just haven't submitted the same exact thing. So make sure you update your numbers, make sure that your community needs, they obviously would have changed in 5, 7, 8 years. Make sure your goals are new goals or an expansion of previous goals, or I'm going to redo this goal, and explain that you are redoing it and for what reason. Don't just put the same goal in and don't explain why it's there. I'm going to ask. And that's the thing too, if you submit this plan to me and I have problems with some parts of it, or some things need to be more expanded or written differently, we will have a back and forth about that. This is not in stone not the final version of it. When you send me your final version, we will go back and forth and tweak it until it becomes something that I think is something that is going to be usable for you. All right, so that is community needs response planning. What other questions do you have about this plan, about doing your community needs response plan? We have about 15 minutes left in the workshop today, so I want to answer any questions you have right now. If you've got them at the top of your mind and you want to ask them, what about the plan? What questions do you have about the plan? Is there anything I haven't covered that you were wondering about? Is there anything you want more explanation of, or you want me to dig a little deeper into? Type into your questions section of your GoToWebinar interface, and I will answer any questions you have right now. I'll scroll up here to those main elements that you need. No? All right. Let's go back to the main accreditation page. Does anybody have any questions about the accreditation process in general? About the process itself, benefits, the schedule, the requirements, the application form, your peer libraries, your peer questions, peer comparison questions. Anybody have, what questions do you have there about this process that I have not answered that you're hoping to hear about today? Is there anything on the accreditation application form that you wanted to know more about that you didn't ask already? Anything that you were, any of the guidelines that were, let's go over here, guidelines that were confusing to you, anything you want to know more about? Let's look at this here, any of the information on here that you have questions about. Oh, there's a question. Awesome. Someone wants to know, is our monthly board minutes provided to the city council count as monthly communication? Okay, so just submitting your board's minutes rather than like going and standing up and giving a report yourself. Yes, that would count. You're reporting, the library board is who does, library boards are who are the governing bodies of your library, and that will give them a good overview of here's the work, the business that the board and the library worked on this past month or two. Yes, you could just submit your minutes if you wanted to them on a regular basis. You could do that if you have monthly board meetings of your library board. You can do that as well. You should still at some point get on their agenda to talk, maybe for that annual report at least, have someone that actually talks about and then answers questions about it. But just submitting the board minutes would count in my mind, yeah. And now I have a question about your community's response plan evaluation. Someone says, I'm not sure what the evaluation part is for. Is it previous programs or previous plans? What are we evaluating if our plan is for the future? Well, okay, so the evaluation would be, in your plan, you're going to say, the evaluation section of the plan is going to say, we are going to review this plan annually. The library board in their January meeting, I'm just guessing, will review this plan every year. So that's part of it. And then you will also just explain, we will look at the goals we set and make sure they are being, the process is going on. So the evaluation, so in your plan, it's not the evaluation itself, it's explaining how you are going to evaluate the plan and the goals that you have. So it's going to, if you look at some of these examples, it will say the library board will evaluate this plan annually to make sure we are achieving the goals presented in this plan. So that's what you're going to say in this plan. If you did have a previous plan, you could say, and here, when you're talking about the goals, you could say, here's our previous goals that we did or didn't. As you see here, it does say a summary of evaluation of previous accomplishments. So if you did have a previous plan with goals in it, then you would, in your new plan, report on them as well. If you're new to doing this, or your previous goals are, if you're new to doing this first time, you don't have any previous goals, so you wouldn't be able to do that part. So if you're brand new to it, but if you do have a previous plan, you would also, so this will have there'll be two parts to your evaluation section of your plan. One, explaining how you're going to look at it annually and when that's going to happen, the board's going to do that, and then an evaluation of what you did have as previous goals if you had that previous plan. No previous plan, you're just not going to have the second section, and that's okay. I will know that because I won't have that previous plan either. So that will depend on what you've done previously. And then when you get accredited in 5 years again, then you'll evaluate your new goals that you put into the plan that you're submitting to me this year. I hope that helps. So the goals that are in this plan will be reported on in your next plan in 5 years. All right. What other questions do you have? Questions about these planning? Oh, it totally cleared up your questions. Oh, good. Thank you. What other questions do you have about community needs response planning or accreditation? All right, I think we'll wrap things up a little early then. I'm sure nobody has a problem with that. If you do have any questions as you are doing your work on this, reach out to me. My email address is in here, my contact information as well, call or email. If you are up for reaccreditation, look for that email I will be sending out on July 1st. If you have submitted your public library survey and you're not currently accredited, look for an email as well from me inviting you, same day, July 1st. If you have any community needs response plan or part of one you want me to look at ahead of time, send that to me at any time, as I said, and I will review that and give you feedback on it. So I think we will wrap it up for this workshop. Thank you everybody for being here today. Good luck with your accreditation. I would love to have all our libraries become reaccredited and have new libraries join the program. All right, so thank you very much.